Are you ready? Are you ready to go on a journey? A journey from busy to more, from busy to better. Now, I'm going to start with a story. It was a Tuesday morning, much like any normal Tuesday morning. I was running late. I had to run by the office to print off some papers, so I started emailing while they printed. The printer stopped, and I was on my last email, and I was cutting it close, and I was just going to make it for my meeting across town when I was stopped cold. Mid-keystroke, my hands froze. They hovered above the keyboard as I stared at the computer screen. I couldn't read anything I'd typed. Now, I could see it. It wasn't blurry, but I couldn't read it. I took a moment and I squeezed my eyes as tight as I could, and then I opened them and I blinked a million times, trying to focus my brain. Like we've all done studying late night over college, or in the middle of the night, 2 o'clock in the morning, when your child comes in and asks you for something, you have to focus your brain, orient. So I'm trying as hard as I can, and I can't read it. It's like it was a foreign language, like an alien language. So I got up from my desk, and I walked over to the door of my office. And a coworker walked by and said something to me, but I couldn't understand them. I tried to respond, but my head felt like an empty space, and I was grasping for words that weren't there. I walked back to my desk, and I sat down, and my husband's face came into my mind. I couldn't think of his name. Now, I've had kids with this man, so I know him pretty well. But I couldn't think of his name. I couldn't think of the word name, let alone his name. I sat there for several minutes, and then it came to me. Dominic. All right, that's my husband's name. It grounded me. He grounded me like he always does. And slowly the words started to come back. Desk, window, office. Okay, all right. Slowly, words started to come back into my mind. So I turned to my computer, and I finished my email. I struggled for every word of that email, but I finished it, and I hit send. And I closed my computer, and I called my husband. He said, "Hey, how you doing?" "I'm good." I wasn't. But I didn't tell him what had just happened. I was testing myself to see if I could hold a conversation. Guys, I had a meeting to get to, right? I needed to be able to talk to people, so I used him as a guinea pig. When I satisfied myself that, okay, I can talk, I hung up the phone, I packed up my stuff, and I got in my car, and I started driving across town. When I started to get tunnel vision in my right eye. And luckily, I pulled over into a gas station just in time before I lost complete vision in my right eye. I called my husband, and I confessed everything. He dropped everything and came and got me, and we went to the emergency room. They admitted me right away. They said, "Mrs. Totman, we're going to do some tests. We're going to do an MRI. We're going to do a CT. We're going to do an X-ray." Whoa, wait. I'm 6 weeks pregnant. As I'm laying in the machine, as it whirls around, loud as it can be, I'm sitting there worrying about my baby, wondering what was going to happen. They take me back, and I'm in the hospital bed, and finally they come in with a laptop, and there's a neurologist on the other side of that laptop. And he said, "Good news, you didn't have a stroke." Everybody breathe. I looked at your history. You had an acute migraine. It isolated the part of your brain that processes language, and instead of giving you a headache, it shut that down. You need to go home, you need to rest, and you need to take some stress out of your life. I don't have stress. I mean, I'm busy, but I don't have stress. But I was busy because I said yes to everything. Now, what I didn't tell you is prior to this incident, my boss had offered me this incredible opportunity to take over a second team. And I had stayed up night after night the week before researching because I was unfamiliar with the field in which this team worked. And I came up with a proposal and I submitted the proposal, and it was terrible, by the way. But I didn't pause for a minute to think, should I say yes to this opportunity? Because, I mean, come on. He was giving me more responsibility. I was going to manage 2 separate teams. But I had absolutely no interest in the field that this team worked in. I had no experience. I had no education. And I gave up sleep to do the research for a proposal that, at the end of the day, was not something that I wanted. So how do we figure out what to say no to? So Greg McKeown is the author of a great book called Essentialism. And in his book, he talks about 3 questions to ask yourself when you're presented with an opportunity. Number 1 is, will I regret this in a year? To be honest, like I said, I didn't have an interest in that field. A year from now, I could probably figure out a different way to show expanded leadership skills. Yeah, no. What's the trade-off? Well, for me, that week, it was sleep. If I had done a great proposal and I had gotten the team, my other team would have suffered because I would have been spending all of my time studying up on this field that I didn't know anything about. So my original team would have suffered. So what is the trade-off? And then the third thing that he says to think about is, how does it make you feel after? The other thing that I didn't tell you about this busy time is I was on 2 statewide boards, and I can't even tell you how many committees of community organizations. I was a mom of a 2-year-old, I was a wife, I was a daughter, I was a friend, I was a sister. I was busy. So how do you figure out what to say no to? You go through those questions. Okay. When I went through those questions, the 2 statewide boards, were they amazing opportunities? Sure. But when I said no to those and I resigned, it was like the world lifted from my shoulders. My time freed up. I was able to focus and be present with my family. I was able to focus at work. And I was opening myself up to more and better of what mattered. So now that you know how to figure out what to say no to, how do you say no gracefully? Cheryl Ann Skolnicki created this group called Brilliant Balance. She has a coaching program. It's phenomenal. She has a podcast where she talks in one of her episodes about how do you say no gracefully. Tell you another story. My friend Jennifer, I'm like I said, I'm busy. I'm involved in a lot. I'm constantly roping her into this and that and the other. So I called her one time and said, hey, can you volunteer with me at this gala? And she paused. Awkward silence. And she said, I'm flattered that you thought of me. This is such an incredible opportunity for you, and I'm so excited for you. But I cannot volunteer with you. I don't have the bandwidth. I don't have the time. She followed 4 principles that make a no graceful. She offered gratitude that I thought of her for it. She acknowledged the opportunity and the request. She told me no. Do not be that ex-boyfriend that you never really know if it's no or not. Say no. I'm done. I can't commit. And then 4th, offer grace. The grace she offered me was telling me why. But you can offer different kinds of grace. She could have said, oh, do you know Susie Q? Susie Q, she absolutely loves doing things like this. You should call Susie. You can also offer an alternative. You can say, hey, I can't go with you, but this is a fundraiser, right? Can I bid on an online auction? I can't be there and I can't volunteer, but I could bid or participate. I could tell other people about it. So offer an alternative. Offer some form of grace. What about grace to ourselves? My third and final point for you is we have to offer grace to ourselves. Because here's the thing, I love this quote. You can do anything, but you cannot do everything all at once. I was sitting in a chamber meeting for women down in Charlotte many years ago with Mayor V. Lyles was on stage, and they asked a question that gets asked a lot at women's chamber events. Mayor Lyles, how do you balance work and home? She offered the most authentic answer I have ever heard. She said, I don't. Because here's the thing, when you're focused on one thing, your attention is removed from the other. You can't do everything all at once. There's a book by Randy Zuckerberg, and Randy Zuckerberg's book is called Pick 3, and she has 5 categories that she puts all of her to-do list in. Family, friends, fitness, work, and sleep. Yes, sleep is in there. And what she says and what she offers is you can do 3 of those things really well in a day, but the other 2 probably are not going to get done. So pick 3. There are going to be times when work takes your attention. I travel a lot for work. And when I travel, I try to cram as much work as I can into that trip because I'm not with my family, I'm not with my friends. So I put as much as I can, I focus as much as I can on work. I try to maybe get a walk in, and I try to sleep. But sometimes you have to pivot. So I had a work trip planned recently. I'm so fortunate that I work for a company that not only gives lip service to work-life balance, and again, it's not balance as much as managing, but they support their employees in ensuring that you are where you need to be when you need to be there. So I had a work trip recently. My alarm was set for 2:30 a.m. I had to be at the airport for a 5 a.m. flight. Fun. But again, I try to maximize my travel days. And at 12:30, I'd just gone to bed about an hour before that, I'm awoken to the monitor and my daughter is crying out and she'd gotten sick, all in her bed and had a high fever. I immediately got on the phone with the airline and with the hotel and I moved my trip. Because that day, my 3, mainly my 1, was going to focus on family. And that's okay, because there was somebody else that was able to do that meeting. We are not replaceable, and that is a good thing. We help each other. And I had another colleague that was that was ready, and they were willing to go on that meeting and take care of what they needed to take care of that day. So pick 3 or 2 or 1, but focus and give yourself grace. Now, I hope today you've thought a little bit about the busyness of your life. And I will say, you guys have said yes to being here tonight, and the people watching, you have said yes to watching tonight. You could be at dinner with your spouse. You could be staying late at the office. Thank you for your support. But when somebody offers you an opportunity, I hope that you will pause, decide whether or not you should say yes, offer a gracious no if it's no, and then give yourself grace not to do everything all at once. Thank you.